Well, there you all are, and what an audience we got coming in tonight to the six screens of the Watchtower conference calls. Well, they're like a podcast, really, right? We were one of the first to start doing podcasts 20 years ago. Well, actually, not 20. I don't want to say 20. It's going on 18. So let's leave it at that. So, anyways, I just wanted to say we have been doing this for a while, as you know, but we are having fun here at the six screens. Now, if you're a new listener, don't go off and say, "Oh, I don't want to hear that. That's apostate stuff." I'm just going to say, listen to the program, do your own research, and see what you think. See if you think we're lying or whether telling you the truth. Good, give it a check. Well, anyways, we got a program. It's called "Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower." Oh my goodness, what a program this is! This is Anne Marie. She's from California, and she's got the program now. Tonight, Anne Marie is going to be we're going to have open lines for you to call in. People will be calling in from pretty much all over the world. We hope you're all going to be one of them. But, anyways, was there ever any secrets in your congregation? Was it something that somebody was doing, like perhaps an elder or a ministerial servant? Or maybe you knew some infidelity or drug abuse or alcoholism or fraudulent activity? Maybe even knowing a pedophile. We know that's covered up. But was there ever any secrets? I have secrets. In the congregation I went to, there's a lot of secrets. And I'm sure that each and every one of you know of some secrets when you were attending the Kingdom Hall. So why don't you give Anne Marie a call tonight? She would love to hear what your secrets are. But let's bring Anne Marie on. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick. Happy Six Screen Saturday. How's everything going for you and Susan?
Well, everything is going smooth. I have to tell you that. We got a lot of rain the other day. It's the most rain I ever remember getting here in Massachusetts. We got 6 inches of rain in like 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. I never seen it like that. I lived in Florida. I mean, where they're famous for rain. But I tell you, I never seen rain like I saw the other day in Massachusetts. I'll tell you that. It was unbelievable. But anyways, it's beautiful today, and I'm glad to be able to come on. I'm very happy to be able to come on and be all pepped up and ready to go. So I believe we're going to have a really good program here tonight, Anne-Marie.
Oh, it always seems that way. Thank you so much, my brother. I want to welcome everyone in. It is again Six Screen Saturday, and this is the Touched by the Tentacles show. Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. Today's August 12th. I can't keep up. Rick, the time is flying by faster and faster. It is August 12th, 2023. We want to welcome everyone in. If you're a PIMQ in the Watchtower, you're faithful to the Watchtower, but mentally you're questioning, you're troubled, things bother you, but you don't know what to do, you're just trying to keep faithful, we welcome you. I think you'll find some comfort. Please feel free to comment. We welcome all the PIMO. Those are still physically in the Watchtower, but mentally, they're not fooled anymore. Mentally, they are out. They know that the Watchtower is not God's anything. We welcome also the POMOs, those who are physically out and mentally out. They are free, no longer fooled, no longer scared. But we also don't forget the POMIs. Those are physically out, but inside they're still worried. What if they're right? What if Armageddon comes and Jehovah destroys me? Maybe I should go back. So much fear was instilled in us with that terrible mind control indoctrination. Whatever category you fall in, you are welcome. This is a live program. Please feel free to listen in. If you have a question or a comment, hit *6 to unmute. And please, when you're finished speaking or commenting, please remember to hit *6 to remute yourself. That way it doesn't cause a lot of background noise. So today's topic, as Rick mentioned, Did your congregation have secrets? I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, every congregation had secrets because we were all leading fake lives, even though many of us weren't aware. But we were like living a script. We knew how to act. We knew the facial expressions. We knew the things we were supposed to say, the tone we were supposed to say, and the image we were supposed to project at all times. So it's like we were always on, living up to the Watchtower script, keeping in step with the Watchtower two-step. But, we were human beings. And, if you're ashamed of something, you hide it. And there were situations that every congregation had. I mean, there were so many things going on, but you couldn't talk about it, usually because it involved the higher ups in the congregation. Now, Rick wanted to be the icebreaker because Rick knows lots of stuff. He's had lots of experiences, heard lots of stories. My brother, Rick, would you like to start?
Yes, of course. I always like to be the icebreaker. You know that, Anne Marie. Well, the topic is a good one. Maybe some people will be a little shy, but I want you to think while I'm talking, I want you to think about an incident in your Kingdom Hall that was really being swept under the carpet. I mean, we know child molestation is being, kept under, pushed under the carpet these days. But something else, if that's the case, you can tell us about that too. But I'd like to hear some of the juicy stuff. I mean, the real nasty stuff that was going on in your congregation. Well, there was some nasty stuff going on in the congregation I went to right up here in Massachusetts. But let me just tell you, there's a lot of nepotism. Well, of course, that's showing favoritism to relatives, right? Especially like your niece or your nephew, and oh, I'm going to get them a good position or whatever. But that all goes on in the Watchtower, big time. But anyways, there was an incident in our hall where there was an elder, and he had actually two daughters, and one of the daughters was pretty heavily into drugs. And, everybody knew it. Everybody was gossiping. I mean, the Kingdom Halls, they're nothing but a hotbed of gossip to begin with. But everybody was gossiping about it. And they were saying, boy, she's on drugs and she's got some serious, serious problems. And, no one ever brought it up. But I can tell you what, if that wasn't an elder's daughter, she would have been disfellowshipped in a heartbeat. No questions asked. But because she was the elder's daughter, she kind of got away with it. And I don't believe she's even in the so-called truth today. But, it's really unfair. If the elders are going to cover up their own misgivings in their families, but so willing to get involved in everybody else's family business, I think that's pretty bad. What's good for the goose should be good for the gander. But Jehovah's Witnesses do not work that way. Their private little operation, their little social club they got going, they protect one another. But it's really a shame that has to happen in a Kingdom Hall. But it happens. I'm sure there's people on here tonight that get a lot of stories. I get more to Anne Marie, but I'm going to have you take it over and see if someone wants to speak up about what they know about was a secret in their congregation.
Well, thank you, Rick. Does anybody want to share an example? And Rick, I hope you'll come in later and share some more. Does anybody have a thought or an experience or something that they heard about that was going on in your congregation, or maybe another congregation that you heard about? Because I used to hear a lot of rumblings. Anyone want to comment? Star 6.
Hey, Anne Marie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, it's Eric. How you doing, hon?
I'm doing well. How's Desiree?
She's okay. Thank you for asking.
Bless her.
Yeah, I have a story to add for you. So I felt like I'd come in first, or second, I guess, after Rick. But I kind of told the story before, but I guess repetition for emphasis, right? That's what Watchtower says. But it really is kind of like a dirty little secret that was kept for a long years. And what happened was my uncle worked for a brother. I think he was a servant at one point. He was a millionaire, not like a million, like millions upon millions, but maybe a few, a few million. He had an auto parts store. My uncle worked for him, and his name was Don, and he passed away. But we called him the Don, and there was like this secret group of guys that were all witnesses, and they'd go to the strip club, and if someone didn't have the money, the Don would front him because he was the millionaire, and they lived double lives, a lot, him and his crew, amongst my uncle too, and what happened was an elder had an affair with Don's wife, and he found out about it, and he knew that the elder that had the affair with his wife, he knew secretly when they were like late teens, early 20s, that his wife and the Don had a little thing where they liked each other. So he went up with his wife for revenge, and he didn't just sleep with her, he got her pregnant. And the kid that came along, this happened in the 80s or 90s, somewhere around there, and I was born in 81, and I grew up with this kid, and the name of the family was the Blackmores, and they have kids, like 3 or 4 kids, I think, this family, and the kid that was out of wedlock, when I was told from my buddy's friend from my uncle that went down, and he told me this, I'm like, I know that kid. And he does not look like the rest of the family. They're all dark skinned and dark hair, like Middle Eastern maybe. And he's like white boy, blonde hair, blue eyes. They're all quiet introverts. He's like super extroverted, like complete opposite. And he is a lot like Don. And when I was told that, I was like, what? And they kept it a secret this whole time because no one wanted to be disfellowshipped. And the kid, I don't know if the kid knows or not. The father eventually, he had been reinstated 4 times, which means he was disfellowshipped 4 times. And he eventually hung himself. And I feel bad for the man, I really do. But I don't know if that secret died with him or not. I don't know if my friend Brett knows about that he possibly might not come from who he thinks his dad is. But I thought that was a pretty big secret and very scandalous. And there was a kind of a joke going around because if you knew Don, he was just this like very testosterone man. Like, yeah, Troy, I get back and I impregnate your wife. It was just this really bad situation. And that's what Watchtower does, though. It gave a really bad situation, and then you can't come clean with it, right? How could you? I mean, you would be passed out forever. You would never be forgiven for something like that, and you would always have your name tarnished forever because the witnesses will just drag it through the mud. But I felt really bad for the whole situation of what happened, and yeah, I thought that was a pretty big secret to hide.
It's just really sad. I mean, you hear stories like this, but then you hear about, a young lady in the Watchtower is interested in a young brother and he's interested in her. And they can't sit together at the meeting because, it's scandalous. Or, Rick had a story where his son was interested in a sweet little Jehovah's Witness girl. And they were trying to sneak around to have just time together, normal stuff. And, the father of the girl made this big deal out of it. Oh, we got to go to the elders. And it's just so stupid. And Rick's like, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill. How about, they want to spend time together. How about I have them over to our house and as a family, with the girl and the boy and my son and his parents can come too, and we'll all sit around and have popcorn and watch a movie. And the elders are like, oh no, overly controlling. It just reminds me of Jesus saying they strain out the gnat, but gulp down the camel. They will nitpick and nitpick the nitpicking. But yet there's this, like you said, Eric, scandalous. And that just goes on. And hey, if you don't talk about it, it didn't happen, right?
Exactly.
It's so sad.
It's really sad. if this story is true, and I really do think it is because it came from a good source, and the guy who told me the story, he didn't know that I grew up with the kid, and it like, you know, when your intuition just screams at you, and you're like, no wonder why he doesn't fit in with the rest of the family. He's literally the milkman in a way, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's the show.
I guess it could be considered a conspiracy, but the source that it came from was one of his best friends, and I believe that I believe it, that he would tell him that. And this guy that confirmed it, he never lies really. He's like an honest straight shooter, you know. And I don't know. There's a lot of secrets. One more thing that I would add is there's definitely a good old boys club with I think Rick talked about, or it was either you or Rick, about nepotism, and that totally happens. I was never a part of it for some reason. My grandfather was an elder, and I didn't get any protection at all. I was fed to the wolves, but there's a guy, like when I got the scholarship for smoking weed, and there's a guy who smokes cigars, smokes weed at concerts, drinks too much sometimes. He like partakes, you know, and his dad is the Kobe, and he's like Teflon Steve, like nothing sticks to him. Like he just gets away with everything. And it's kind of frustrating that like people know that like some of the things he's done, but the secret is there. You know, something that I get punished from, he gets a pass.
Oh, I've heard of those stories. Depends who you are, depends who you know, and who they know. It's all about hierarchy and politics. Not supposed to be that way, but reality is reality. It's a shame. It is a shame. The one story I've heard as a common story through the years on the internet and to my own ear are the elder sons who go around raping the young girls in the congregation that, you know, they want this one, she rebuffs him, and they know they can get away with it. Oh, if you say anything, I'll just say, you seduced me, and I didn't say anything because I didn't want to sully your reputation. And, you know, I've told this story many times of a sweet young girl who's a Jehovah's Witness, raised Jehovah's Witness, and her mother was wanting to have her daughter marry an elder son, all about prestige. And she left the boy alone with the girl. Oh, we forgot something at the store. And he raped her. And the time that they took to go to the store, they weren't gone 25 minutes. Boom. Did his dirty deed. And he said, if you say anything, I'll tell them it was all you, and they'll believe me. And so she didn't tell. She just told her parents. And unfortunately, her mother actually screaming at her, calling her names, saying that she had ruined the family's reputation, ruined her life, ruined, you know, what could have been. How could you do this to us? Basically forced the poor girl out of the home because now she was a disgrace. Can you imagine? But I've heard this kind of story the most, as far as an elder son thinking, hey, I can do this and get away with it. It's a common story. And anything else? Anybody else have a story or a secret that you know was true or you heard about that people just weren't supposed to talk about?
Anne-Marie?
Yes.
Hi, this is Stephen from the Midwest. How are you tonight?
Hi, Stephen. I haven't heard your voice in a couple of weeks. How are you?
I know. Sorry about that. I have one story, and it kind of haunted me. Most of my life. When I was a kid, both my parents were witnesses. And my dad's a very social guy, so we used to have a lot of gatherings, and friends would be over at the house and so forth and so on. And then all of a sudden, I was a little kid, so I didn't understand all the details, but all of a sudden, it was kind of like everybody was getting disfellowship. Everybody was getting divorced. So all the little friends that I had, I never really saw anymore because the parents were getting a divorce. They were moving out of the congregation. Some left, so forth and so on. And my father even left witnesses, but I believe that my father left for theological reasons. But I never knew that for sure. But anyway, many, many years later, when that generation of the parents started to die, I actually ran into one of the gentlemen who I had not seen since I was a little kid. And I had to explain to him who I was, and he finally recognized me. And he just held me to the point where both of us just started crying because we hadn't seen each other in, 30-something, 40 years. And I always liked him, and he always liked me. And we got to talking. And what I found out is the congregation was under the impression that they were all in the wife swapping and all of this crazy stuff. And he said, the only reason why I left my wife, he said, is because I just could not deal with her anymore. He said she had what we know now to be undiagnosed mental illness. He said, but back then, I didn't know what was going on. He said, there were even days when I thought she might do something to me in my sleep. And he's just like, I better get out of here. He said, so I just waited for our son to be old enough where I could sit down and talk to him and ask him, what do you want to do? Because I've got to leave. I can't stay with your mom. You want to stay with me? You want to stay with her? You want to go back and forth? However you want to do it. He said, that's when I left. He said, it was just purely coincidental that when I left, whatever happened with all these other families, happened. And I don't, whether that's the truth or not, I could care less, to be honest with you. I really just don't care. But the thing that I thought was so interesting is that all those years, we're talking about decades, we always took that these couples that we were talking about, and the brothers were all elders. Some of the sisters were pioneers and all the like, that they were just into wife swapping and they were into all this other kind of stuff. And that's the story that everybody, heard, and that's the story that everybody ran with. And at least for this particular individual, that wasn't the story at all. He just could not take being with this person, and you can't even sleep at night because you're worried that somebody's going to kill you in your sleep. Then yeah, leaving is the right thing to do. So it was really just amazing to me when I kind of just sat down and thought about how when we don't know what really happened in the situation, we always think the worst. And we always think the worst about people, and we hold those opinions for decades. And the only thing that saddened me about that is not too long after that, he was diagnosed with cancer, and he passed. My father passed in 2000. So I was really looking forward to, spending time with him. This is somebody that's known me since I was born, but unfortunately he passed. So that was kind of one of those stories, like I said, that it comes out, that's what people run with. You think that for the rest of your life until you find out different. And so it's really important to, if you don't know the true facts on the thing, not to form those opinions and take those opinions with you throughout your life.
That is so sad.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Well, Stephen, thank you so much. And
No
I
problem.
hate to say it, but I've heard this type of story also as well. It's just the things that go on, but you don't talk about it. Everybody's so worried about presenting the right image. I just remember going to the hall. I never missed a meeting, and always smiling and always saying the right thing, and trying to make sure I didn't do or say or have a look or something to get gossip about. But the thing is, there were things going on that you just didn't talk about. The whispers sometimes,
Right. That's correct. Yeah, you're right. It's always the things that you should be talking about and discussing, but you don't. We had a young man that committed suicide. I was a little kid. I didn't know what suicide was. I just know that he was dead. And I remember a lot of friends going over to the parents' house to console him and so forth and so on. And the big topic was whether or not the funeral was going to be allowed to be held at Kingdom Hall because he committed suicide. And that's as much as I could understand at that age. But that's what they were all kind of whispering. And the father basically got so angry that he kicked everybody out of the house. And so we wound up leaving. And because again, I'm a little kid. I don't really understand what's going on. I understand now when I think about it. He was probably so angry that here I lost my son, and all these false comforters are over here. All they can worry about is whether or not the funeral is going to be at the hall because he committed suicide. This is the kind of craziness that those of us who have been around a while were born in. This kind of craziness we've all had to deal with.
Yeah. I heard one thing that you just reminded me, if you don't mind me sharing, Stephen. There was this sweet brother. I thank you. I heard that there was this a brother that was actually very well liked, had a great personality, but he was a drunk. And let's face it, just trying to imagine being in the Watchtower. I think if I liked alcohol, I would have been drunk every day myself. So this guy was well liked, but he had gotten a couple of DUIs, and the elders warned him, you cannot, we understand drinking, but in moderation at your home, but you can't be getting DUI, disgracing, Jehovah's name and bringing reproach upon the congregation, the whole spiel. And they said, if you do this one more time, you're going to be disfellowshipped, because he had already been privately reproved, publicly reproved, and they were hoping he had learned his lesson. Well, silly idiot went out, got drunk, and started driving again, and unfortunately got into a bad accident, and he died. Well, he was a well-liked brother, but they're so worried about what it looks like, and, boo-hoo, boo. So they disfellowshipped him posthumously. I don't know how to say the word, but they disfellowshipped him after his death, so that technically they didn't have to have a memorial service for the poor guy. And I thought that was the height of not only hypocrisy, but straight up cold meanness. Because everybody loved this guy. He was such a sweet, likable guy. And he's dead. And now they disfellowship him because they don't want to look bad. True story. Any comments? Star 6? You don't want to hear my mouth start talking. What's
there's nothing
that?
that screams cult anymore. I said there's nothing that screams cult any more than that story you just told him. No love, no fellow feeling.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
I mean, that is heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking.
I mean, even the Bible says that the wage of sin pays is death. When you die, your sins are paid. So why would you still disfellowship a person after he died?
I don't know, but that's what they did.
It's nonsensical.
It is mean, beyond mean. And nobody talks about it. What was really funny, too, is I remember some sisters were talking about getting pregnant and hope they didn't get pregnant and they'd have enough kids. Stupid me opened up my big mouth and asked, well, what form of birth control do you use? I mean, it was just a small group of us sisters in the hall, and they all looked at me like I had asked the absolute biggest taboo question. That's none of your business. You don't go around asking somebody like that. Of course, I was naive, but I'll say, well, how do you keep from getting pregnant? But it's just like you just don't talk about certain things. And it's like you can be a pedophile as long as you don't say, I don't know what she's talking about. I didn't touch that. I don't know why she's saying things like that. Maybe she's just mad. Same thing about fornication or adultery. Hey, I didn't do it. Do you have 2 witnesses? No. The idea that you can get away with so much filth and lying and hypocrisy and come off scot-clean, and yet, I'm such a good Jehovah's Witness. And then you have this poor fool who every little thing he feels so guilty about, he goes and confesses to the elders. Next thing you know, he's the one being removed from the platform or being threatened with being disfellowship. When he's on his knees crying. Yep. Oh, by the way, this is God's loving organization.
Yeah, by the way. Now, this, Anne Marie, that if you're an elder, you can go out and get involved in whatever activity. You could even, let's say you were married and you committed adultery, more than likely with a non-witness, right? So you don't have to worry about them going to their elders and confessing. If you keep that to yourself for maybe 3, 4, 5 years, meanwhile, you're sitting on committee meetings making decisions about other people who have done the exact same thing you did. Matter of fact, maybe they didn't do what you did. Because if you were married, maybe they were single and they got involved with whatever activity, maybe with another single witness. You're sitting in year after year on committee meetings like that, disfellowship of people, breaking up their families and all the rest. All the while you've done the exact same thing. All you have to do is keep that to yourself for about 3, 4, 5 years, and then confess it to a couple of your buddies, and nothing will be done. You won't have a judicial meeting. Your wife doesn't need to be told. You'll never miss a beat, and you can continue to serve as an elder. That's in the Elder's Handbook.
I forgot about that. It's not a. It's always
in
about
the Elder's Handbook.
Mhm.
Always about the image.
Yep. Yep, that is so true. I think the funniest thing I ever heard was in the 70s, these group of elders' kids, well, all boys, they got together and they were sick to death of the hypocrisy that they saw going on. Now, these were elders' sons from different congregations, and they were so disgusted at how their fathers would be on the platform talking about Jehovah this and Jesus that, and being faithful and being, going by scripture and living a biblical life and boo-hoo, boo-hoo. But they, being the sons of these elders, they would all get together and compare stories. And to get revenge, they all were thinking, you know what, we have to do something, really give them a big slap in the face. Something that, what's going to happen? Who cares? We're going to show them. So they decided, one of them decided to get the key from his father to the Kingdom Hall, and they planned it on a certain night, and they spent hours in the Kingdom Hall in the middle of the night, all night long, watching porno in the Kingdom Hall. Because this is back in the 70s where they had a projector and everything. But it was just their way of, look at you, you're hypocrites. Well, we can do this, you do that. At first I was horrified. Then I thought somebody made it up. Then I found out it was really, really true. And then I thought about it, and I found out the reason why. I went, wow, that was pretty.
I don't think I would have had the balls to do something that brazen.
Yep, I'm sure they all got a whooping, but hey, they made it worth their while. Hey, if you're going to get in trouble, might as well make it worth their while. But they had to do it. And the sad thing is, like, sometimes some of the secrets or the stories, sometimes they're not even true. Sometimes they're not even true, but that's okay. I remember when they were talking about Michael Jackson in like 82, around 82 or so, 83. I remember this group of sisters were talking about, I heard Michael Jackson this and I heard Michael Jackson that, because he got in trouble when he got called before the elders for doing the song Billie Jean. Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who says that I'm the one, who fathered her kid. He said, but the kid is not my son. If you're young, you might not know that song, Billie Jean. He got in trouble for that. So here's these sisters gossiping, and thank God the circuit overseer who was visiting, he was very, very nice, and he just walked up to sisters and he said, sisters, we don't really know all the facts, and remember, he still is our brother. And those sisters shut their little flapping mouths and hung their heads because they were gossiping. But you're not supposed to do that, but they do it. It's like the worse it is, the more quote unquote juicy and dirty and wrong it could be, the more they want to flap their mouth. That's just sad.
Well, I've always looked at the gossiping as the witness life is so boring that is essentially all they have. What really do you have? You don't even have anything to look forward to other than the next convention where you're just going to hear the same thing over and over again. What do they have? They don't have anything else. So that's what they do. They talk about everybody else.
They don't even let you have a dream about your next lifetime now.
Ballot Pixie.
Well, they used to have sailboats and pictures of people on horseback and, dreams that you'd see your beloved family. And now they've got like a modern city and the dog on the leash. And a lot of the medical advice is very dangerous. And the people have a lot of superstitions. And one sister older than me, she confided in me that it was painful for her to be sleeping with her husband, and she didn't even know that the drugstore had something that would help her. They're the most ignorant people on earth, and I used to be one. They need to go to the library and educate themselves. It's just sad to me.
I agree. I agree. I agree. And you know, when you were talking about Michael Jackson, somebody brought to my attention that at the very beginning of the video for that song, Thriller, I think it's Thriller, there's a statement that comes on at the very beginning. If you're like me, you probably missed it 100 times because you just don't pay attention. But it has something to do with, they're basically trying to play down what's going on, I guess, and not attribute it to something satanic or demonic or whatever the case may be. And whatever that saying is, my understanding is that Michael Jackson put that there because I guess the elders had gotten on him about that song. And so if you ever go and if you ever just, you can pull it up on YouTube, I suspect, and you'll see that sentence in there, and that came from pressure from the elders.
Yeah, he used to have a lot of respect for the elders. Remember in the 80s when he used to go out into the door-to-door ministry? He took being a witness seriously, and he'd go in the door-to-door ministry in disguise.
Oh, wow, yeah, I guess he had.
I'm sorry?
I'll tell you a funny story. Anne Marie. I'm from the Midwest, but all of my family actually lives all over California. And when I was a kid, I'm talking about a little kid, I used to attend the same congregation that the mom, Catherine, and the oldest daughter, whose name escapes me right now, used to attend. I never saw any of the Jackson boys, but it was just those two. And I was a little kid. I didn't know who they were. They were just Sister Jackson. There's a million Sister Jackson. I never thought twice about it. And I would go, I would be in California every winter break, every summer, every single year, because all of my family was there. None of my family is in the Midwest. And so eventually over time, they would see me and they would say, "Oh, you're back again." I said, "Yeah." And they would say, "What is your name again?" And I would tell them. And eventually somebody came to me and they said, "You know who that is?" And I said, "No, who?" And they said, "That's Michael Jackson's mom and oldest sister." I said, "No way." I said, "Yeah." They said, "All these years you didn't know?" I said, "No, I had no idea. Nobody ever said a word about it." So I used to actually go to the same meeting that they attended. And I even got invited over to the house once because a sister that I kind of called myself like the mom, Sister Jackson, was trying to get this particular sister to kind of befriend her youngest daughter and get her interested in the truth. And so because of that, I was actually invited to the house once. I didn't go, but I was invited. So it's kind of funny when we talk about the Jacksons. That's kind of my little Jackson story.
That is so cool. Are you talking about LaToya, the older daughter? I don't know if there was one older than LaToya.
The oldest, if I want, now my memory is not good, Emery, but I believe the oldest is Rebe. And I don't believe that she was ever, or hardly ever, in the music industry, which is why a lot of people don't even know about her. If I'm not mistaken, she's the oldest. So those two, Sister Catherine Jackson and Rebe, if that's the right name, those are the ones that always remained Jehovah's Witnesses. The other family never really stayed with them. In fact, like I said, I never once saw them at the meetings when I attended, but I always saw those two.
Oh my God. So many famous people got lured into that cult. I'm just always have been grateful that Mr. Jackson had the sense to see the talent and the potential in his kids, in Michael Jackson, and he pushed them. Yes, he did. But he came from old school where the father ruled the roost and they don't obey. You whoop their butt. You push them and you push them and you push them. And if it wasn't for him, we would have never had any of it. None of it.
If it wasn't for him, look at the life they would have never had.
Exactly. And we don't even know how much wasted talent there is, or has been wasted talent. How many writers, singers, actors, musicians. I mean, look at George Benson. I hope he's still alive. You know, he's a beautiful brother. I don't know if he's still in the organization, but he's been well known. And it's just, oh my goodness. I'm so glad we got out.
Yeah.
Well, we're so lucky.
I'm very glad.
Yeah. I wish we could speak
about Michael Jackson for both of you.
I'm sorry, would you speak?
is it true that Michael Jackson actually disassociated himself and not got the scholarship when that happened because of his sister's the scholarship?
Could you 9978? Could you come in a little bit? The one who's talking on the line now. Can you talk a little bit closer? You're getting a little muffled.
It sounds very muffled. Speak clearly, please. Thank you, Rick. We want to hear what you have to say. Would you repeat that, my brother? We couldn't understand what you were saying. Oh,
Well, I'm not
that's a
978.
shame.
Can you hear me better?
I can hear you just fine. Was that you speaking earlier?
It was, but I'm not 978.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. My microphone was a little further away. I was just saying, I was going to ask you guys, is it true that Michael Jackson actually didn't get this fellowship, that he got, he disassociated himself when his sister got this fellowship because he didn't want to shun her? I heard something about that, and I was just curious what you guys thought, both you and the other gentleman.
Well, I don't know for a fact, but I heard the same thing. I don't think he was ever officially disfellowship, and personally, I think it's because he was always very sweet and humble, and I also think it was probably because he gave a lot of money and maybe property too to Watchtower. I think they kind of handled him with kid gloves. But if he was disfellowship, I never heard it.
This is Stephen again. I was just talking a second ago. As I mentioned before, when I would go to that congregation where the mom and the older sister attended, I never once saw any of them. So I have no idea what happened with any of them.
To who are you referring? Did you say Gabe, G-A-B-E? Gabe?
No. I was saying, this is Stephen. I was saying that I don't know what happened with any of the children because none of them were at the meetings when I was there. It was only the mom and the older daughter. So I never. Yeah. No, you're fine. So I never knew what happened to any of the kids. I never saw one single one except for, I believe her name is Reedy, and the mom, Catherine Jackson.
Wow. It must have been hard, so hard for all of them. So hard for all of them. Can you imagine the elders trying to control them? You know, here these boys were so talented. And wow, I just can't imagine life without the Jackson Five. Remember, they were always in competition with the Osmonds. Now, the Osmonds are strict Mormons, and the Mormons are exactly like the Witnesses in that they're a cult and, you know, their elders run everything, but at least they let you, you know, be, you know, to exercise your talent. They don't hold you back. Thank God.
Right.
I mean, but they're still a cult.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Witnesses will squash every dream, every talent, every individual thought, even a hint of an individual thought. Yeah, you're not putting Jehovah first. Put Jehovah first, which is the organization. Anytime they say Jehovah, it's the organization. You're not doing enough. You're not jumping high enough.
And look at the hypocrisy of it. If you had said, like I was a born in, I don't know if you were born in, but if I was getting approximately, say, 18, when the witnesses started asking you, oh, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? Now, if I had said, you know what, I really like theater. I think I'd like to take acting and maybe go into films or something, I would have gotten scolded, ridiculed, just raked over the coals. But now Watchtower turned itself into a video production company. And now they're going out, my understanding is they're going out trying to get witnesses. They don't want the average pioneer who might be heavy set, maybe doesn't dress the nicest because they just don't have the money because they don't work instead of doing Watchtower stuff. And so they don't want those. Now they want the more attractive witnesses. Well, they can't act, of course, and now they're trying to give them acting lessons. So it's okay when Watchtower wants to do something, but when you want to do it, it's bad. So it's bad for you, wrong for you, but it's right for them.
It is the truth. It absolutely is the truth. It's just so sad. And you have to be qualified. I remember telling some witnesses at the convention at the Cow Palace in I was like 14, and my dream, I really wanted to be a teacher, wanted to teach third grade. And I was chastised and lectured and got my head bitten off. What are you saying? Armageddon's coming. What are you thinking? What are you talking about? Where have you been? 1969. Okay, whose phone is that? Somebody want to get their phone so we can not have to hear it? Good gracious. Whose phone that is, please turn it off. Please. Will you mute that annoying sound?
Yeah, we got them off. They're trying to call in here, and it's a call from New Zealand. They're trying to call in on Facebook, so it's hard to see where it's coming from.
Sorry. I'm okay. I don't know what to do. Sorry, people. I'm sorry don't mean to be rude. New Zealand. I remember a lady called in from Switzerland. Did the New Zealand person get through?
No, I wasn't going to take the call. I mean, it's your program, but I didn't want them to come in and interrupt everything. That it has to be a certain format, and it would have been too interruptive at this point.
Oh, I just, that noise. I'm sorry. I'm old. But I don't even know what I was saying. Anybody have any comment, any experience to share? Thank you, Rick. I didn't want to be causing another problem.
Hey, Anne Marie, can I ask you a question? I was online. I don't know. Just you think about it, Anne. You think about it. I was just online one day at lunch, and I normally go to MSN.com online for news. I don't know why, I just do. And there was an ad that was just on the page. It was about 2 weeks ago, and if I'm not mistaken, the company was called Red Bubble. And they basically just, there's a website that you can go to. You can just order clothes, and you can order coffee mugs and all of that. But what really caught my attention is that the ad that was on MSN on the coffee mug was the name Jehovah. I said, what is this about? So I clicked on it, and there's all kinds of religious stuff that's on there, T-shirts about whatever. I guess probably all the religions are represented. But there's a lot of stuff out there that is specific to Jehovah's Witnesses. There were a bunch of things that had the jw.org in the blue logo.
Oh, yeah.
T-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, the name Jehovah. Then there was convention-themed stuff. And there was stuff specific to Bethel and all the rest of that. And I thought to myself, Watchtower would have to give permission or licensing, and therefore they would be getting a cut of those materials. I mean, it just smacks so much of commercialism that they used to rail against and make fun of other religions for doing. And now they're just as knee deep into it as anybody else. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I have seen it, not so much lately, but I don't know about any of these people that have made a business out of it, giving money to the Watchtower. I'm sure they do, but I don't know about licensing and all that. I just didn't hear that or feel that, but I do remember these long sleeve dress shirts that were kind of white, not like regular, but more of a heavier cotton material. And in little tiny letters, you see jw.org, and it's done very nicely. And the same thing with the ties and the cufflinks and the belts, and then they have the cell phone covers and the tablet covers. It was like really big about, 10, 12 years ago. I haven't seen it personally, but hey, money, 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 money. People gotta have it, and make money. And
I was just shocked to see that. To be honest, I was just totally shocked. I don't know why anything with Watchtower should shock me anymore. I was just like, how commercial can you be? Because there's no way that I know the jw.org, to the best of my knowledge, was trademarked. So if you print something on that, Watchtower is going to be getting a cut of that. And I'm just like, wow, how commercial can these people be?
Personally, just as my opinion, not saying I know anything, but personally, I don't think Watchtower would go after anybody that is selling jw.org because, one, they don't want to be bothered with having to pay the lawyers and the time and the lawsuits or be considered being frivolous. And second of all, why would they be upset that somebody's advertised? There's some very annoying loud clacking, whatever that noise is. Might not sound like much to you, but it's really hard. You know, they're getting free advertising. I even had, I don't know if you guys remember, but I think they had like little bracelets. In fact, it was so pretty. I wanted one. And even though every little charm was like, I think it was like a little cube that said jw.org, and they were all different colors. And it was so pretty. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I want it. I actually wanted to buy it. That would be really bad, huh? But some of this stuff looks pretty neat. I don't think that Watchtower would go after them. I think they'd say, hey, free advertising. Y'all taking a nap? Anybody else have any thoughts? Anything to share? Anything that you knew that was going on that nobody was supposed to talk about, but everybody knew it? Usually it's some elder messing around with somebody else's wife, but you're not supposed to know about it because then that's gossiping and you could get in trouble for slander. So there were always this kind of stories going around. Anybody else have any thoughts? Anything to share? Star 6?
Hey, Anne-Marie.
Well, hello, brother.
How are you today?
Well, I'm fine. Where y'all been?
Well, I done 6 streams last week and the week before. Yeah,
But I haven't heard Constance. Where is she? Hello, Anne-Marie. Anybody? Okay, I just want to make sure you're okay. I was worried about the weather and the humidity.
No, we're doing great. We've got another 2 or 3 days in California, and we're heading to South Carolina. But the reason I called earlier, you're commenting on the dreams that were shattered by the Watchtower. And I had a very simple dream, because I'm a very simple guy. In 1955, I was 7 years old, and a neighbor across the street, or the family across the street, had a son that served in the Marine Corps, and he went to Korea, and he came back, and everybody wanted to shake his hand, and he was kind of a celebrity in our church, and I thought, that's what I want to be. I want to be a Marine Corps sergeant and have those kind of medals that he had and have everybody look up to me. Well, that was my dream since I was 7 years old. And I went to boot camp right after graduation, and it took the Marine Corps year and a half to send me in Vietnam. And I actually came back, and I lived my dream. I became a Marine Corps sergeant, and I had some medals, and you know, some people thought that was pretty cool. But my sister said to me, who was a JW, that if you're in that uniform, and Armageddon is coming in 1975, exactly in October 1975, that you will be killed at Armageddon by Jehovah God, because you're wearing that uniform. And now as time goes by and I look at the scriptures, there's a scripture in Luke where Jesus tells Peter to go out and get himself a sword. Well, a sword would be, in my day, it was an M14 or an M16. But Jesus actually told Peter to do that. You'll find that in Luke. I wanted to stay in the Marine Corps for 30 years. I would have been very, very happy. I'd loved the life of a Marine. I just loved wearing that uniform, but can't be a Marine because guess what? Jehovah hates the military, and you will die at Armageddon if you are a Marine Corps sergeant. So I came back from Vietnam without a scratch, one of the few of my platoon that did, And I thought, well, the odds are against me now because Armageddon's coming. And so the Marine Corps was going to give me $7,000 to re-enlist. This is in '71. I turned it down and turned down another stripe because I didn't want to die in Armageddon, which was at that time 4 years away. So that's my little story on how the Jehovah's Witnesses kill dreams. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Enjoy your program.
Wow, I remember that story, and it's just so sad because when you know from a little kid, you have that inspiration, you know that that's the life for you, but they take it away from you.
Crash landing.
They will wonder. Oh, go ahead.
Kill Bill.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi, did you want to comment or?
No, you know what? I didn't realize I was unmuted, but this is Rochelle from Milwaukee. I'm not sure if we've ever talked before. I was going through my CDs. I didn't realize I was unmuted. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Who am I speaking with?
This is Anne-Marie, and your name is?
Oh, hi. Rochelle, we talked before, Anne-Marie. I know you.
Oh,
I know you from Rick's show.
All right. So how's everything going?
Everything's going good. I haven't called in a while because I've been I'm not gonna say super busy, but I've been somewhat busy. I just take my breaks from like the ex-Jehovah's Witness movement from time to time. So I've been kind of busy with just living life.
But that's a good thing, and you're free to do whatever you want to do. That's what freedom is. We are free. I'm just glad.
Yeah.
Did you have any thoughts by any chance on our subject today? Secrets that people knew certain things were going on, but you weren't supposed to talk about it by any chance?
Oh, sorry.
No, I didn't get a chance to hear. What was the subject about today?
Well, what I just said, that when you were in the Watchtower, in your congregation or in any other congregation, were you aware of maybe a secret or two that was maybe whispered about, but nobody really was supposed to talk about it?
I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you just fine, dear.
Okay. I'm in the middle of cleaning up, organizing. That's why I was asking. I didn't know if I went offline, but yeah, I was gonna say probably infidelity, like a lot of cheating. A lot of the congregation I went to growing up, there was a lot of cheating and stuff like that.
That's such a shame.
A lot of stuff. Yeah, so that was a lot of what was going on in the congregation that I grew up in, was a lot of cheating and infidelity. But other than that, I mean, like, there wasn't really any apostasy. It was more so like people cheating and doing that type of stuff. A lot of like marriages that came to an end because of infidelity and cheating and things like that, but not any anything that was really doctrine related. Everybody seemed to agree with the doctrine. They went along with it, at least as far as I know they did. But the congregation I grew up in, it was more so like, I'm sorry.
No, if you didn't agree, you know, believe me, they got rid of you real quick. You know, you can be anything, but don't disagree with the Watchtower. Wow, well, I really appreciate your sharing that. Yeah, it's a common sad story, unfortunately. There was a brother who was trying to comment. I was wondering if you will, you know, stay with us, sister, but I want the brother to feel free to please share his thought. You were coming in, sir.
Oh, Anne-Marie, this was Stephen again. There was something that I believe Brother Borky had mentioned about dreams, and it occurred to me that as a born-in, we as young males, there was probably about 8 of us all together in my one congregation. we had no idea what we ever wanted to do in our lives. When we were asked that question, or we started getting asked that question right around the time you get into high school or the middle of high school. And we had no idea because we had never been exposed to anything. We didn't know what was out there. So the only answer that we could come up with was, well, we'll go to Bethel, and then after Bethel, we'll pioneer. And I said, well, I'm not pioneering. I'm not doing that. I said, I like women. I'm going to find me a job and get married. That's what I'm going to do. But I'll go to Bethel for a few years. Maybe I'll meet somebody there. If not, then I'm coming back home. I'm going to get a job. But it just occurred to me when we talked about dreams, I don't even think some of us had dreams because we were never exposed to it. Everything we were always told was, you grow up, you be a ministerial servant. If you qualify for that, then you can go be a elder, or be a regular pioneer, or go to Bethel and get involved with some kind of Bethel lady service. Outside of that, we had no idea about what was going on in the real world and things that we could have been doing and what we liked and what we didn't like, because we just weren't exposed to anything. We didn't even have dreams. Well, that was taken care of.
I think that is so sad, but I realize literally that not only were we under a constant, systematic, subliminal, hypnotic programming, but every Watchtower we studied, every Watchtower that we listened to, every meeting, every talk, every booklet, every campaign, like, Return to Joe campaign and all of those little things serve to reinforce the programming. We were always supposed to be those perfectly functioning, programmed Watchtower drones. But what was really sad is I realized Watchtower didn't really bother trying to indoctrinate the children. They indoctrinated the parents to indoctrinate the children. That's your job. You indoctrinate your children and turn them, make sure you get them indoctrinated so that they are properly performing, according to the Watchtower programming, they're perfectly performing Watchtower drones. And if they step out of line, the parents are chastised. You didn't do your job. And I never realized that that's what I was doing. I was programming and inculcating the programming to the kids. And you're taught that if your child deviates in any way, they don't want to be in the Watchtower. They want to be an actor. They want to go into construction. They want to be an explorer, whatever. Oh, you don't want to serve Jehovah, aka Watchtower cult, then you are disowned. And that's completely abnormal. So that just gives a hint of how powerful the mind control indoctrination and programming is with the Watchtower cult, that they can get their own people to turn on their own children, their own mother, their own grandparents, even to allow their own wife to bleed to death when she could be saved after she gave birth, or to allow their own child who had a car accident bleed to death. That's not normal. Does anybody have a clue of how not normal it is?
Can I make a comment on some of that?
Please do.
I was just thinking about my son, Jacob. He's now 28, and I remember it kind of just shows you sometimes how you talk about the programming. It was easier for me to tell my son to move on. And basically what I used to tell him when he was a lot younger, find what you love to do and find out how to make money doing it, and no matter what it is. And it was easier for me to tell him that than to I don't know, how do I say this? Get myself to do that. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I knew what I was going through from the programming, and I did not want that for my son. And when I started to wake up and started to share with my son at different stuff, he's like, he knew something was wrong too, and he was just done. But he kind of wandered through the next years, wandering around, like not knowing what to do. He wanted to go into the military, And then he was like, he would go and just get right where he was signing up, and then he'd back out. Well, he's in boot camp right now in Illinois, Great Lakes, I think it is. He went in for the Navy because he's wanting to, hopefully, depending on how well he does in boot camp and all that, he wants to be a Navy SEAL. But he's been doing high-end security for years now and gotten doing bodyguard work and different stuff. But a lot of his buddies are ex-military, and they told him, if you really want the experience for your future, you need to have some military experience to get a lot of these, really high-end jobs. And so that's what he's got in to do. So I'm proud as hell of him, that he's actually just finally, I'm going to do it. At 28 years old, he still was I don't know if he was right at the cutoff, but he needed to make his mind up,
Well, good for you. I mean, I hope you're really proud of yourself, and I hope people listening are really thinking about what you just said, because I failed my own children miserably because of how Watchtower raised me. Armageddon's coming next week. I never had a sense of future. It never occurred to me that I would live to see 16, much less 18. And here I am, a great grandmother. I have 5 great grandchildren right now. And here I was told I would never grow up. I would never have time to go to school, go to college, have a career, get married, raise kids. They lie and they lie and they steal your life. They steal any hope of a life, the life you could have had, the life you should have had, and the life you should have been able to give your children, and the encouragement and the guidance that you should have been able to, so that they could have a life. And I'm really happy that you gave your son's name, is it Jacob, did you say?
Yeah, it's Jacob. He's been out for a long time, but I tell you what, the brainwashing, it doesn't matter really how long you've been in there, but he was born into it too, I was inactive a lot of his years of it, but we still went, and he went with his mom at times, and he still got brainwashed, and he was worried, at times, well, maybe I am wrong and my mom's right, and I died Armageddon, and I don't get to see my parents or whatever, and he just had to sort through it, and it's just like everybody, it's just a process of eliminating the darkness that the Watchtower puts over our mind, and the Watchtower does a great job at severing the spirit from. It's almost like you're no longer conscious. You're how do I say that? Your spirit of who you are is that it's like they sever or they block it. They probably block it, because if they severed it, it'd be hard to bring it back. But they block it to where you're just I hate to say it, but a wandering idiot. You just wander around. Oh, good.
Yeah, you're right. You're not allowed to have your own thoughts. You're not allowed to think for yourself. That's independent thinking, which makes you just like Satan, which might as well say you're an enemy of Jehovah, and you're just like Satan because you have independent thoughts, which means you think for yourself. Oh, can't do that. To be a proper servant of Jehovah, you're just supposed to be a wide-eyed receptor of the indoctrination. And it's basically programming. And if you're not a drone, then you're not spiritual. It's a very twisted, sick thing. I'm just so happy that at least Jacob will not have to worry that he gave away his youth, slaving away for an organization that just uses and abuses you until there's nothing left they can get out of you. They don't care if you're hungry, starving, your health goes downhill. If you live in poverty when you're at old age, have no real security financially, they don't care. And I really wish all we can do is tell the truth. All we can do. And I appreciate your sharing that. Rick, how are we doing on time, my brother? Go ahead.
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes, Anne Marie. 10 minutes is fine.
Well, thank you, my brother. Okay, anybody would like to share? We have about 10 minutes. Somebody is making so much noise in their phone. Remember, please stay fixed unless you're going to talk. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
whoever muted their phone. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. Go ahead.
Hello.
Go
I
ahead,
wasn't
dear.
sure if I could go ahead. Hi there, Anne Marie. It's Christine.
Anyway, Christine.
I just jumped in just now, and I didn't hear what the theme of it was, but when he talked about how the mind is, you lose reality. Do you remember someone had a show on here on Six Screens about hypnosis? There was it was a while back, and it stood out for me. What I got out of it was it is a form of hypnosis, the way that they repeat and take control of your mind. But the person that came on that did the hypnosis, he said that it's also that we participate in the hypnosis. So we actually self-hypnotize. So there's both going on. We subject ourselves. Somehow we give into the hypnosis of it all. So I thought that was interesting, if I remember that right. If anybody else heard that show, maybe they could bring up some more points about it. But I do feel like it is a form of hypnosis, because I don't know if anybody had this happen when they go to the Kingdom Hall. I remember walking, every meeting that I would go to, I'd walk in, and then there was something I had to do to my psyche in order to be there. I had to actually get in a certain frame, force myself to put something, I know it's vague. I'm trying to explain that to walk into the Kingdom Hall, you had to change yourself. There was something about that you had to do to open up your mind to take it all in, to be the personality they wanted you to be. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I just wanted to share that I think it's very powerful, and they know what they're doing because it works. It's worked on millions. Millions of people have been fooled, and that's why they emphasize so much not to miss a meeting, because they're going to lose that link. You're going to lose that continual mental process that you have to be under to be there. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you. I wanted to thank you.
Well, Christine, you're so right, and it's not that we willingly participate, but part of the programming from the very beginning of a person first being indoctrinated into the organization. Remember that those witnesses, as far back as you can remember, those witnesses who went door to door were not out there trying to find the sheep. They weren't out there trying to preach the good news. Somebody is making the most annoying constant noise. I am begging you to stop. Thank you.
The 660, in fact, I want to make an announcement. 602, it's coming from your line, 602. So just be a little careful. And remember that the phone, when you have it unmuted, is a microphone. It's going to pick up on shuffling. So a number of people have their phones on. So just try to remember that. That'll make Anne Marie's job so much easier.
Oh, you're so kind. It's hard for me to focus. But anyway, thank you. What Watchtower trained Jehovah's Witnesses to be, this is why the Theocratic Ministry School was so heavy duty enforced, is Watchtowerites were trained to be cult recruiters. Cult recruiters use hypnotic reasoning. For example, clever reasonings of men, the kind tone, the friendly, calm smile. They lull you into this sense of being safe and comfortable. And that's how your brain gets receptive, because you have no sense of having to guard against anything. You don't have any sense of, well, wait a minute, what's going on? You're not on guard at all. And so they get you from the get-go. So when you're right, you walk into the Kingdom Hall and it's like you're on. You know how you're supposed to act, but you're not consciously aware that you are acting the way you're supposed to do. And you're turning off all of your other thoughts, and you're supposed to focus on whatever is being said. And those songs are to get your brain all ready to be receptive. You ever notice that? They sing. It's part of the process. Yes. Thank you, Christine. Go ahead, my dear.
Marie, you're right. There's a lot of power in the word truth. They use that word constantly at the meeting. You're in the truth. It's not only is subliminal, it goes into your subconscious. So you just sit in that Kingdom Hall and relax, because you're going to be told nothing but the truth. You know, when you watch TV, you watch the commercials on TV, you know, those commercials are misleading, and a lot of them, you know, are just downright dishonest. But you go to that Kingdom Hall, you sit down and you can relax, because you're in the truth. You don't have to do any investigation. You don't have to do your research, because everything that you're going to be told is the truth. And then when something happens, like 1975 came and went, there was no Armageddon, nobody talked about it. And I got a call from Dan Clarkey last week, and he was saying he was talking to an elder at an assembly that he went to, and the assembly, the elder told him that that 1975 is what some of the witnesses thought was going to happen, and they stepped out and they overrode the governing body, and they started saying 1975. Well, that's a blatant lie. It's a stupid lie, because it's right in the truth book that says there's a definite time, 1914, and it was definitely going to end in 1975. And that's why they want all the truth books that are out there to be sent to, I don't know, Brooklyn or someplace for a museum. Well, they sold, I think, 3 million of those books, or 6 million. Anyway, that word, the truth, in the Jehovah's Witness organization is just the opposite. It's nothing but lies. It's the angel of light, but it's really Satan the devil. It appears as the angel of light, but it really is Satan the devil. The truth, in the Jehovah's Witness vernacular, is a lie, the majority of it. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Well, thank you so much, Dick, my brother, for bringing that out. And we need to reiterate, for the sake of those who maybe aren't familiar, it's not just that we believe Watchtower was, we were taught by Watchtower emphatically in the magazines, in every book, at every meeting, at every convention, even in small talk. Armageddon's coming no later than 1975, the autumn of 1975, and we were pushed and we were prodded and we were threatened, and you better not screw up, and Armageddon this and Armageddon that. And then when it didn't come, you weren't supposed to say anything. And if you did say something, you were murmuring against Jehovah. It got so bad that I think it was the very latter part of 76 when something like 250,000 walked out of the Watchtower in the first couple years or so after Armageddon didn't come, because so many had come into the organization believing the hype. Oh, there's only this little bit of time left. And then when they couldn't shut up everybody, even came out with a big talk called the test. Like every other sentence was, it was a test. Did you pass the test? Blah, blah, blah. And then they were saying things like, well, we could only calculate from when Adam was created in whatever year, they said, but we don't know how long it was before Eve came. So then they actually said in print, we might be wrong by a couple weeks, maybe a few months, but certainly not years. I mean, they just kept everybody believing with their excuses until finally it got so bad, they sent Brother Franz, Crazy Freddy, out to chastise everybody. We all had a secret special assembly. It was at night at the big old assembly hall, and it was to address the murmuring. And everybody's in the audience, you know, whispering to each other, you know, what is he going to say? What is he going to say? And here comes Brother Freddie Franz, Crazy Freddie, with his really crazy darting eyes. I swear that man's eyes could dart fire drops. And he was glaring at everybody, and he was talking about the bad attitude and how we were being disgraceful toward Jehovah and unappreciative and on. And then all of a sudden he looks at us, and we're all hanging our head anyway. And then he goes, do you know why Armageddon didn't come? And he waits half a beat, and then he goes, because you wanted it to come. Who do you think you are? Jehovah doesn't work on your time schedule. Anyway, he went on and on and on. Forget the part that they had been drilling it into our heads since the summer of 1966. Anyway, we are out of time. Dear Rick gave us 10 minutes. Did you want to say something, sister, real quick?
Oh, I'm just agreeing. It's Christine. I'm really agreeing with everything you're saying. It's just, he was crazy. He had a big part in my coming in. I was a teenager taken to one of those 7-day assemblies, and I heard his voice every day. And, you know, it's sad, but he was kind of scary, but I think he was powerful because as a teenager, I completely turned my mind over to, at that convention, being a naive girl who's never been around religion. I'd never been to any religious type. I go to this 7-day thing, and it really did a job on my brain. I was only 15, but I remember sitting in the audience just shaking, like I thought it was true. What I'm saying to you, it had a powerful effect on my mind, to the point where no matter how much my family tried to get me out of that religion, I fought to stay in. And I waited till I was 18 to get baptized. You know, I couldn't. I had family trying to get me out. And I couldn't. It was so powerful. And for some reason, his voice was so piercing and so hypnotic. I guess we go back to that. I was literally hypnotized for life. I didn't get out of Watchtower till I was about 63 years old. So we're glad you did. Well, I'm so glad you made it out, Christine. We are out of time. I want to thank everyone for coming in. Thank you to Christine. Thank you for Dick Borgie and Stephen and Eric and I know her name, Pixie. Everyone who came in, we're out of time. And I want to thank everyone for coming in to the 6 Screens Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. Today again is August 12, 2023. We need to go to Rick and JW World News. Rick?
Well, thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Very, very good job tonight. Had some really good participation. And I got people writing in here. They say, Anne-Marie, we love your show. So people are making good comments, and how good that is to have people really enjoying listening in to Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Well, you guys don't go anywhere. We have got our JW World News. Well, that's coming up next. Now, that's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But we talk about it every Saturday night and every other Sunday right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. And we're so glad to be able to give you the latest happenings in the Jehovah's Witness world. So stay on the YouTube channel, stay on the Facebook channel, telephone line. We have a number of different platforms we're on. So we're going to end this program right here. And just bear with us. We're going to move over into our other studio, and we'll be able to get your attention over there. Let me just mute some people here on the telephone line. Okay, so let's do that. We got that muted. and I believe we can start our other program. So let's end this program right here.